The last two videos have been talking about sticks as a concept. You see a stick, you immediately think this is a stick, but we change it within our minds. And then the next video after that was on, how sticks can be equated, how we can alter things in our mind so that they become good or bad or something to us. I was completely using a different essay, and I don't want anybody to think that what I was using with that essay meant that I thought ill of the people involved, specifically the cosplayers. The assholes can go to hell. No, really, they can. Won't bother me at all. But moving on, we're now going to look at video games as sticks. So once again, video games are a stick. They are an object. They're a thing that you can play with. Most of it is actually how you play with it yourself. And honestly, there's a certain level of understanding here where immersion is not so much that something is realistic, it's so much that you let yourself go and you see this game as almost purely you. That's difficult to explain, but it's called a flow. And I could get into it a lot deeper, but not at this point. We're going to get into the other stuff first, if you don't mind. So here we go. Video games are not good or evil. By the way, this game is called Afterlife. It's a fun little game I played back in the 90s, and you had to run both heaven and hell, and occasionally have monsters attack, and sometimes you would go against your friends, and one would be running hell and one would be running heaven, and you'd be sending stuff out at each other. It was a fun little game by LucasArts, and oh wow, the rating is on it. That's right. Wow, that's actually pretty cool. One of the very first games to get the rating. Anyway, the importance of this game is you could be good, you could be evil, it was your choice. In the same way that many video games are, it's really how you play it than whether or not it's evil. Video games in and of themselves are not evil. However, some games can be evil. And that's where the subject really gets into it. Or where the subject really changes from, well, it's a benign thing, it's not important, we don't need to worry about it, and people will show as many tests as they can to prove that video games will not affect you. However, then we have to start asking questions like, why are you playing this video game? And this game is Grand Theft Auto 5. You're specifically playing a character. Oh, I forget his name. I always forget their names, don't I? But he is specifically evil. There is nothing to like about this person. And, people kind of rave about him and say he's their favorite character. And you kind of wonder why. Why do they view themselves, why are they playing a character that is evil? And, that does bring up awkward questions. Why do you want to run around in a perfectly built city and be evil? Why do you want to be an asshole, to be honest? And I don't mean asshole like, oh, I'm insulting. I mean, dude, compare this to a school shooter. Yeah, in this game, you're the equivalent. You're the same. Why are you choosing to do this in the game? And, the truth is the game actually points you in that direction. The game actually wants you to be that way. And people are like, well, you don't have to be. But they also don't make the game so that, there's options to be good either. And that's something we have to accept. Some games can be evil. My biggest memory from this is somebody was playing Grand Theft Auto 3 Vice City, and he was running around with a chainsaw just killing people left and right. And I said out loud, this game's really evil. Multiple times, and everybody around me just nodded and went, yeah, it is. It's evil. I mean, this is a horrific slaughter what we're doing, but we're going to continue playing it. And it just made me wonder, well, why? Why are we doing this? What is the point? So let's look at the equation. Within a video game, what they try to do is they try to make it either as benign as possible, or not benign. I'll try to explain. But here's the equation for connection and distinction from it, and this is getting into the whole immersion theory. You view your character as yourself, and you can be anybody you want to be. But in this particular game, you are Gordon Freeman. Funny how I know his name more than the Grand Theft Auto 5 guy. And you kind of view yourself from a first-person perspective, and they specifically try to control the way you think and the way you view things in the game. If a monster is heard from your left, you move to your left, and they have scripted scenes and movements so that you do not feel that you are outside of this game. And it doesn't really matter, if you can have this level of immersion or even greater or even worse. It's how much you just get into the game itself, how much you give up what you're viewing around everything else. I have another equation to explain how this works, but basically you have so many concentration points, and when you play a video game, you kind of stop concentrating on anything else, and the character you're playing becomes almost one with you. That's why lots of people like lean and move and duck, and I specifically chose out Half-Life because I do that when I play the game. Well, you view yourself as very, very important and integral to the game, and almost as one with the character. But then we go and we look at the zombie. Do you have control over that zombie? No. Do you have power over the zombie? No, you can't really control it, nor can you overpower it or move it. Do you have a disconnect from it? Yes, it's a monster. They made sure to make it almost inhuman looking and almost screaming. And your acceptance of this is pretty high. You totally understand that this is not a human thing. So when we put that together, we get a 0.16. In case you're wondering what that equals, it actually equals 0.166666666. It's just an eternity of sixes. It's a 0.1 and a third and 2/3 basically. But you look, and that character is that way, and then you compare that to the way you feel about Gordon Freeman, which is a perfect one. You feel at one with Gordon Freeman. So that monster with its 0.16 therefore has no authority, and if you were to compare it to Gordon Freeman, you are 6 times more likely, literally six times over, to just want this character to die. You don't care what happens to this character. In fact, you want bodily harm upon it compared to yourself. So, what do? You kill it. You have no problems with this, and the game actually sets it up that way. In the same way that we look at Grand Theft Auto, they make these beautiful, beautiful games, but then they make it so that the characters are somewhat comical and somewhat letting you become the malicious person you want to be. So you view your character and everything else around it in a much lower way. But it does create an immersive effect for you in a comical way. Let's look at this in a different point of view. If you like this, you might like this. We do this in advertising all the time. If you like baseball, then you must like ESPN baseball. People just talking about baseball on TV or showing baseball on TV. Now, do you have any connection to that baseball game on the TV? No. Do you have, any real control over that game on TV? No. But you still kind of like it because you have a connection to the baseball in and of itself. And because of that, if you look, you'll actually see that you like watching baseball a little bit more than you actually enjoy playing baseball, just because of how low your standards are for this baseball and how much you like baseball anyway. And the same works for video games. It's almost dead even with the way you like actual baseball. You have less control over things, or you have more control over the TV, but you also are disconnected from the game because it's not real, and you allow this. So in somehow you are able to become a character and enjoy it because you like baseball. You see this all this time. If you like Cars, you'll like Top Gear, but it can be reversed. If you like Top Gear, you might like Cars. It's an interesting point of view. So using these equations, we've looked at video games, and we've looked at how you like them and how you might like a specific character over another character within the game, and how that lets you kind of choose how you're going to play is very much so a part of the game. And how a video game is just a stick. It's what your mind puts into it that creates what you want from it. And next week we are going to get into conventions and how they're planned out and stuff. And I'll have pictures from a planning meeting. So I'll see you next week, and bye for now.